Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to, this afternoon on this Travel Mole broadcast, is going to talk about the thorny subject of recruitment, which, as almost everybody knows in the industry, the travel, tourism, hospitality industry, is a thorny subject. There aren't that many people around. Salaries are going up. People are getting very touchy about working from home, particularly the government. So there are all sorts of things going. And one of my colleagues in the industry, Chris King from Lightning Recruitment, is on the other end of the line, and he's going to be talking about his thoughts on it. So good afternoon, Chris.
Hi there, Graham. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, Chris, I painted a scenario. We've not got a lot of excess labour and particularly experienced labour in the market at the moment. I know we've spoken about this a little bit before, but is there any way we can actually expand this pool of labour that the majority of travel and tourism and hospitality companies go for? What are your strategies as far as your recruitment company is concerned?
I mean, so much to talk about. I'll try and keep it as sweet and succinct as possible. In short, yes, there is so much that we could be doing as an industry. In the travel and the hospitality industry, we're probably touching on 50% of the labour that's available to us. And there's so many things that we could be doing. I think to start with, there's issues with pay, there's issues with work-life balance, there's issues with the recruitment of people in general. So I won't go into all of that to start with. Let's just look at the amount of people that are available. And as you quite rightly said, there are more jobs than there are people right now. And I think the first thing we can be doing as employers is changing our mindset and realizing that you're not going to get the same talent that you got before the pandemic or during the pandemic as you would do right this second. So if there's anything you want me to talk about in specifics, let me know.
Well, I think one of the areas I was thinking about was the actual, do employers narrow their market by, for example, age, sex, criminal record? For example, Timpson's have an extremely good record of employing people with a criminal record, and people are, they're an outstanding success, very socially conscious business. Are there leads that we can take from other parts of the economy, and are things that we could do within the industry to, if you like, bring more people in? And I think I've mentioned before, there's an awful lot of people that during the pandemic would have thought, I think I'm going to give up work and I'm going to retire. Maybe there are things that people could do to encourage those people back into the industry, even if it was on a part-time basis.
100%. I mean, so many topics we could talk about there. I guess the main one is making work more accessible for people that it might not be as accessible to. So there's the whole, obviously, work from home, hybrid, work back in the office debate. Now, with that affects so many different people. By just being office-based, you completely cut out people potentially with disabilities, people that have kids at home and childcare issues. So many different people from all walks of life are cut out straight away just from being in the office. Likewise, you then would go straight to pay. Pay in our wonderfully beloved industry is not the best, and that's across travel and hospitality. We're just not, as an entire industry, able to pull the talent that we want. I mean, we were talking earlier to someone that went, "Oh, I'm just kind of a grad. I've got a year's experience in the tech industry, and I want to get into travel." And we were like, "Great, cool. Like entry into the travel, 25 grand." And they were like, "I'm on 38 and I've been in another industry for a year." And that's just one example of an absolute plethora of examples. And then on the other side of that, you've got people that are a bit longer in the tooth with experience in the travel industry that were on higher wages before the pandemic. And because of the pandemic, it pushed wages down. They're now faced with being overqualified for roles, and companies are like, "Oh, well, like, why would you want to join our company?" So there's so many people being cut out. That's not even within going into classism. That's a huge issue in the travel industry, into looking at pools of talent of people that need support. And I think that's the key thing, and it really bugs me at the moment, is companies aren't willing to develop human beings. People want the finished package to look exactly and talk exactly and be exactly as they expect them to be under their brand. And anyone that doesn't fit into this I don't know, person that they have in their eyes is then pushed to the side. And that does come down to sex, race, sexuality, and all of those kind of industry buzzwords that we talk about.
And you talk about pay and conditions of work, like, you these days it's you're interviewing the employer as much as you're being interviewed for a job. But with pay, do you think there are things that people could do and be perhaps a little more innovative? When I first started work, the big drag, the big pull was having a company car. If you could get a company car, Christ, you were flying, literally flying. I'm not suggesting we go back to a company car scheme, and it's not good for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. But do you think that we've been a bit blinded and not been quite innovative enough in terms of way we remunerate people?
Yes and no. I think it takes a couple of people or a few companies to make a change. And I think our industry in general is kind of stands behind, well, this is how we do it in the travel industry. It almost lives and dies by the sword, and everyone's very against, oh, well, what, like, this could go wrong or that could go wrong. I think looking at the package and the company as a whole is a better way of looking at it. I think work-life balance for people is a huge thing right now. I think benefits for the sake of having benefits are worse than having no benefits. So I think there's better ways that we can look at, as you said, giving a better package to people. Now, I don't think it's a one size fits all. And I've sat here and I've listened to HR professionals at conferences chat absolute rubbish about, oh, we're going to pay off people's mortgages and send them to Ibiza once a year. People don't want that. And who has a mortgage nowadays? Especially not Gen Zs. But it's about looking at ways of treating your employees with respect and making them want to work there, and showing as a company that your values match their values. It's things like working with brands like Heka, which is Heka, an amazing tech startup. And what they do is companies can give, I don't know, like £50 a month to employees that doesn't come out of their wages. And they can go onto this platform and they can spend that £50 on anything from self-development courses, gym memberships, fresh food deliveries, aromatherapy, all of that good stuff. And that's just another added benefit to packages. And that doesn't have an age, gender, anything attached to it. It's just a really awesome thing to do. I think also gone are the days of lobbing a fruit basket in the cafe and saying we're looking after you. So I do think like work from home schemes are amazing. I think I just saw Google are doing again, this is another end of the spectrum, but Google have actually got a childminding service within their offices and actually say to their parents, bring it in, we'll look after your kids. We're actively employing parents and we can help you out. So it's just thinking about who you're trying to employ, the person, and supporting their needs. It's not a one size fits all, I don't think.
Okay, and when your company, when you or one of your colleagues gets approached by a company, say, look, we have this position, what sort of procedures, what sort of process do you go through with them before you say, right, well, you, quite frankly, you got, if you carry on like this, you've got no chance of getting anybody? Or do you say, look, yes, this could fly because of the way you're treating your employees?
So something we do is, before we even have those initial conversations, is check their reviews online. So you can do that via Google, you can do that via Glassdoor, you can see what their employees are actually saying about them. Obviously, that's one side to the story, but again, it's just because a company is coming to us for business doesn't mean we're going to accept it. We want to speak to the founders, we want to speak to the owners, we want to speak to staff and find out what it's working there, why that person's leaving, why that role is coming about, and really understand it. Anyone that works with us is pretty open to feedback. One thing we've just started doing is we set ourselves up as a London living wage employer, which I would love for anyone watching this to look at. Pay your staff £25,000. It's not that much. If we can do it as a startup, anyone can. And look at the benefits that brings. In terms of the issues we have with clients, is they'll go, oh, well, we paid this person this much 6 months ago. That's a cool story, but that's not going to get you the same person 6 months down the line. So it's about looking and respecting ultimately the talent that you want. Just because the budget you have and the brand you have are great and it's all you've got in your eyes, doesn't mean that we're going to convince someone who's on more pay with a better package in another company to leave their job and come to you. And I think it's the accountability of companies. Companies still see humans as very transactional. I think there's very few companies, especially in the travel industry, as we saw from some of the behavior during the pandemic, people are the first thing to go. And your best mate or your founder that's told you they're looking after your back might not be that person looking after your back. So I think that safety is what people are really looking for. And the thing that the companies miss is that they are representing their brand. And that brand has to entice people to want to work there. And we still have clients come to us going, we're going to grill these people in interview processes. And you can't be doing that nowadays. Of course, ask them the questions you need to, but someone doesn't need to defend their pure existence to be sat in front of you. You want to make them want the job.
Sure. Good. Well, what I would like to do is maybe we could have another chat in maybe 6 or 7 months' time and see where the labour market is then, seeing what success you've had as an individual company, and see if the conditions of the travel industry and the tourism industry and the hospitality industry have changed in terms of employment. It'll be interesting to see, particularly with the rise in the cost of living and all the other things that are going on. So good. Chris, thank you very much for your time. I wish you the very best of luck, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks for your time.
Cheers.